Thanks for that, Dougie. Love you, bro. Tonight, I have the privilege of introducing the Class of 2020 Commencement speaker, Mr. Matt Jewett. He is an outstanding English teacher and one of the most down-to-earth and inspiring teachers at CCHS. He is known for helping students grow in their writing techniques, and he has a way about him that makes us all want to do our very best. Personally, he has taught me how to make a difference with my words and to treat an essay more than just an assignment. He knows how to have fun, and if you see high schoolers laughing or writing after school, they are most likely in Mr. Jewett's classroom while he advises them on how to voice their ideas in clear and concise ways. He taught us how to think deeply and how to persevere. These are the areas in his life that I think define him best: a deep thinker and persevering despite difficulties. Mr. Jewett received his master's degree from Boston College and a bachelor's degree with a double major in English and Communication from Cornerstone University. Before he started teaching AP and English classes, as well as coaching forensics at Calvin Christian, he taught English for 10 years at Kalamazoo Christian High School. He is married to Sarah and is a superstar dad to Blake and Adele. Mr. Jewett shared with me that he tries to live every day by this verse, Philippians 4, verse 12. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation. I know that my 2020 classmates would agree with me. We have seen him live by this verse every single day of our high school. All while he spreads joy, positivity, and hope to everyone around him. Not only is he a fantastic teacher, but he is a fantastic mentor and friend. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Matt Jewett.
So great to see you in person. I know it's important during a pandemic to maintain safety, to maintain distance, but if you're an extrovert like I am, it was not easy, it was not easy at all. It made me safe physically, but not mentally. And on May 30th, I was super excited because something was going to happen that I'd been waiting for a long time. I was going to hang out with people. I was going over to one of my favorite places. That's Mr. Decker's garage. He's got a little man cave back there. And to play some Settlers of Catan, which my number one strategy, by the way, it's fail-safe. Always go for the longest road. Works every time. So we're playing this game of survival. And then Mr. Adama got a text. And he looked at his phone. And then he got quiet for a while, and he started looking some things up. And then he passed his phone around. And we saw something that we never would think we would see. We saw a place that we thought would be safe, Grand Rapids, on fire. We saw violence in the streets. And we didn't know what to do with that. Very soon after, I got a text from my wife that said, "When are you coming home?" I went home right away. That's what you do when you get that text. And when I went home, my daughter was still awake. I was kind of surprised by this. It's a little bit past her bedtime. We don't party too long, but it was a little later. And she was freaking out because my wife had been listening to the news, watching the news, while my daughter could hear it upstairs. And she was very disturbed because what she thought she heard, she didn't understand the protest. She didn't understand what was actually really happening. What she saw and thought she heard was faceless them, was those people. And they were going to come and they were going to invade her space. And so I did. I hope you dads have done too. I gave her a hug. And then I said these words: "You are very safe here." And I'm looking around at you. I love that you're with your families right now. I'm hoping that your families have said that to you. You're very safe here. There's nothing like that comfort. And yet I am actually going to talk about the potential problem of that word, those words I said to my daughter. You are very safe here. And I realize that for some of you, it might have included Christian education. I realize for some of you, Calvin Christian was a place of safety. You were liked, you were loved, you were appreciated. And it's almost more scary about the there. Or will you be very safe there? But for others of you, this was definitely not a place of safety. For others of you, it was hard. It was a hard 4 years. You were betrayed. You were talked about behind your back. You were gossiped about. Some of your news was spread on social media. And this place has hurt you. And I'm sorry that this place has hurt you. But I'm not sorry that you weren't safe. Because maybe we shouldn't have promised you safety. There are no safe spaces. I think we'd agree with that. Thank you for not laughing when my voice is cracked, by the way. I appreciate that. There are no safe spaces. We don't have that ability when we have imperfect people running institutions. As much as we'd like to be a Christian school, that adjective is really hard to live out. And not only that, but our God does not promise safety because we don't have a safe God. One of my favorite books is The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. And if you haven't read it, it's talking animals and that type of thing. But there's 4 kids, and they enter into this other world. It's a world of winter. It's a world of survival. It's a world that's always winter and never Christmas. It's always a place where you just have to survive on your own terms, and you never can hope for redemption. But when these 4 children talk to a couple beavers, that's what they do in this world. When these 4 children talk to a couple beavers, they hear about a redeemer. And he has a name. His name was Aslan. And all the kids hear it in different ways. Some hear it in a way that disturbs them. Some hear it in a way that excites them. Susan wants to know more about this Aslan and finds out that this Aslan was a lion. And that kind of freaks her out, as it would a lot of us, lion. And she's like, I don't know if I'd rather talk to a lion. Is he a safe lion, she says. Mr. Beaver laughs a little. He says, safe? Who said anything about safe? Of course he isn't safe. But he's good. He's the king. Of course he isn't safe. But he's good. Our God that we serve, our God that hopefully is at the center of this school, is not safe, but he's good. When Joshua in the Bible was near the city of Jericho, a place that believed it could maintain its own safety by building a wall around it, he looks up and sees a stranger before him. And the stranger is not safe. Well, 1, he's a stranger, but 2, he's got a drawn sword. And Joshua asks the question I think a lot of us would ask if we were in enemy territory and a guy that you didn't know had a drawn sword. Are you for us or are you for our enemies? It's a good question. Are you going to kill me with that sword? Are you safe? Or should I be very afraid? And this man, this mysterious man, doesn't give Joshua what he wants. He doesn't fit his categories of for us or for our enemy. Instead, this man says neither. I don't fit your categories. I'm for neither side. But I'm good. When I was in public high school, as a Christian to public high school, I assumed that Christian schools were kind of like Jericho. I assumed that they built up walls to keep public school kids, those bad ones, out, that they were places to reject those people. And yet I look back on my own high school experience and I think I was wrong. I think I was the one that took the safe route. Because it's not easy being a Christian at a Christian school. In fact, for me, what I did as a Christian at a public school is I had nice, easy categories, kind of like Joshua. Are you for us or for our enemies? We used to use the term secular back then. We would talk about music, and, ooh, you better not listen to the secular music. Now all of you just call that music. But at the time, it was like, ooh, there's Christian, and there's secular music. And those are nice, easy categories, right? Because you can ask the easy question, you for us or for your enemy? If you're not Christian, then you must be for my enemy. Nice and easy. And that's how I grew up. I wore T-shirts that advertised I was sacred. I had a shirt that said, Jesus, just do it. And I had a nice little Nike swoosh on it, which was secular. But we might have done that with Costco or something like that, a nice little Costco advertisement, put some Jesus flair to it. That's what we did to advertise that we were sacred. And that's how I grew up. I wore T-shirts that advertised I was sacred. I had a shirt that said, Jesus, just do it. And I had a nice little Nike swoosh on it, which was secular. But we might have done that with Costco or something like that, a nice little Costco advertisement, put some Jesus flair to it. That's what we did to advertise that we were sacred. But the problem is I never was taught how to think as a Christian. I was taught to have easy, right answers. Now, I know the term reformed can have a negative connotation for some of you. I know the term reformed has a potential to be that type of word too that separates us from them. You got a good enough theology? Are you reformed enough? Are you one of those people? And so when I use this term, please know that's not the way I'm trying to use it. But for me, as a little college student who was taught there's either this crowd or this crowd, the Reformed perspective on culture changed everything for me because it wasn't safe. It believed that the whole world belonged to God, that there was nothing that wasn't sacred. When Joshua realized who he's actually talking to, that man with a drawn sword, he kneels down, and the man says, "Take off your sandals, for the ground that you stand on is holy." And I don't believe that there's anything special about that ground. I believe the ground was holy because God was present. And for me, the Reformed perspective helped me believe in a present God, a God who is not distant, a God who is here right now, a God who can say neither to the culture war. And so for me, all of a sudden, I could say yes to truth wherever I saw it. In the literature that I was reading, I could say yes to beauty when I saw it. And I never was taught that because everything belongs to God. And even better, I could actually teach students about beauty and truth and that there doesn't have to be a safe, right answer for something to honor God. James K. Smith, professor of Calvin University, said this about Christian schools. Christian education is not meant to be merely a safe education. Rather, Christian schools are called to be like Aslan. Not safe, but good. It should say neither to the culture war Joshua questioned. It should not attempt to build a wall icing us from the secular world. It should teach us how to engage and live, not how to keep ourselves safe. What I love about this class is you are not a safe class. Think about how many points of view were in the room at the same time. As someone who loves having lots of points of view and discussion, I would get geeked out before I would have a conversation with you. I'm like, oh, this is actually going to work. Sometimes you have these conversations with students and like, yeah, I think the same thing as that person. And not this class. Not this class at all. You're inspiring. You really are. And the reason you're inspiring is because you're unafraid. You knew that the person next to you disagreed with you, but you weren't afraid to speak. You weren't afraid to actually say, this is what I think. But fear is real. And for those of you who are struggling right now with fear, and you're like, thanks for talking about the safe thing, but right now, the idea of a there is really freaky. I don't want to minimize that. I can't give you an easy answer and say, you'll be okay. You'll be very safe there, wherever your there is, because I'm not sure if it's true. Some of you know, about a month ago, I was taking a walk, and all of a sudden I started not being aware of my surroundings. And I woke up in the ER. I had another seizure. I had one the year before and had another seizure. My neighbors had found me. They called two numbers. One was Mrs. NSYNC, which is kind of interesting. But anyways, thanks for calling back. She did actually call back. That wasn't sassy. But it absolutely freaked me out. Because I was assuming that I was kind of done with that. It happened one time last year. It wasn't going to happen again. And yet, all of a sudden, it's like, oh, no. Every walk I go on, I'm like, oh, it's going to happen again? What's going to happen? I don't walk very far from the house. Fear is real. And for someone who struggled with anxiety his whole life, I get some of your fear. I understand it. Last time I had a seizure, my my daughter, it was in front of my daughter. She was freaking out because, of course, you've seen your dad, shake, and I bit my tongue. So sorry, this is gross, but blood's coming out of my mouth. And she's running upstairs, and she's saying, "Dad's gonna die. Dad's dying." And because her core of her safety, she doesn't know anything about else. And my wife says to my older son, "Please go upstairs and comfort my daughter." And so he does. He goes up there. Later on, they had a conversation about what he said, and this is what he said to her: "Dad's not gonna die. This has happened before." And then he pauses as he's telling this to my wife, and he says, "I didn't know if that was true, but it felt like the right thing to say." And I kind of feel like my son right now, wanting to say what I don't know is true, but feels like the right thing to say. Wanting to say their college experience, your freshman year, is going to be like your siblings' freshman year. That COVID-19 isn't going to mess up your freshman year of college like it ruined your senior year of high school. Wanting to say that we as a culture will continue to improve on race relations, that the violence that we see will end and will move toward reconciliation. These feel like the right things to say. But I don't know if they're true. But here's what I can say that is true for sure. While our world is not safe, our world belongs to God. While we exist in a world that feels like winter without Christmas, Aslan, our God, is on the move. And our God has moved through you this year. God was on the move when you respected the opinion that was so opposite of your own. God was on the move when you raised money for the Seeley family when that family wasn't your own. God was on the move when you challenged each other, when gossip was being spread, even though that gossip wasn't about you. God was on the move when you were able to say the most important words that a Christian can say: "I was wrong." See, you were restoring God's kingdom when you, like Joshua, took off your shoes to an entire world that is holy ground and humbled yourself to a God who is not safe and doesn't fit your categories. He's not safe. Your time here wasn't safe. Your life to come is not safe. But our God is good. Thank you.